Hello, precious, precious domain people, family, community. How are you? Happy Friday and a huge welcome to Domain TV episode 4. So we've got some awesome things to talk to you about this week, to share with you, to update you on. And there's a couple of parts where you can participate and interact as well if you'd like to. So it's going to be, in some respects, a similar format to the previous Domain TV episodes, but in some respects, we'll be doing a couple of different things as well that you may want to experience and try and share back with us how you got on as well. So it's a little bit interactive this week, which is really lovely. And the Domain TV episodes that we're doing, they're going to continue to evolve and take shape, and we'll do different things. So that's something we'll be talking about a little bit as well today. But we hope you're all really, really, really good. And we're sending you so much love on this beautiful Friday. So let's get started with this week's evidence spotlight. So the last couple of episodes, we've been talking about Domain's phenomenal results when it comes to healing and helping the physical form, like mind-blowing, phenomenal results. And what's so beautiful is when you're using Domain in this way, it kind of doesn't energetically drain you, which is really awesome to know as well. So when you're using Domain for healing on the physical form, it can have incredible output, but you kind of don't feel exhausted afterwards, because if you think about it, you're leveraging Domain's energy massively. And yes, you're using your kind of own energy, but Domain is massive in itself. So this is kind of when we're talking about wielding and leveraging energy from Domain as well. This is why it's powerhousey. And even as I'm saying this, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I kind of get more of this now. So often when I'm talking live to you guys or to people I'm working with Domain, continual new bits of information drop through. So when you think about using Domain, think about having this powerhouse energy behind you. And I feel like in the book, which I think all of you know about now, but in case you don't know, we have a Domain Energetics book, Our World, What Comes Next, which introduces Domain Energetics. In this book, we talk about, I'm sure I read out on Wednesday in our read along, but Domain is like an energetic powerhouse for our times and always. So it does have a lot of energetic whack behind it, which is really awesome. So we've spoken a lot about physical healing in terms of like humans and things like that. But this week we wanted to turn the focus and angle, if you like, a little bit onto animals, nature and the environment, because this is another massive area that Domain can help with. And if you think about the fact that Domain is for all, it's for all humans on Earth, all nature, all animals, it's for all that is as well. But at this time, we're very Earth focused. It can do incredible things for our animals, nature and the environment. And so I just wanted to share a couple of examples with you that are actually really wondrous, because you may find that some of your animals, your pets, your spiritual companions, they actually want to use Domain as well. And this is really, really, really wondrous. Hi, Emily, darling. Lovely to see you. So let me give you some examples. So first of all, in terms of evidence spotlight and helping animals, one of my really first interactions with Domain was to help my spiritual companion, who's snoozing away on the chair next to me. You might hear her snoring, because she had a lump around her tooth. And so one of my very first goes at Domain, and it wasn't as strong as when I talked about using it for my shin, which I spoke about in the read-along on Wednesday. If you don't know, we're now doing weekly read-alongs of the Domain Energetics book, so you can hear me read certain chapters out loud and talk to you a little bit more around them and interact with you and answer any questions. So it wasn't as, the intent behind when I was doing things for my dog Belle wasn't as strong as when I was doing it for my shin, but I still had results. It was one of my really early interactions. So I connected to Domain. I said, right, what can you show me? And I was taken to ice in 2 places. This is what's so beautiful. Ice on our Earth and some of the properties within it, and ice on another planet in another universe is what I'm being told. And you don't have to worry about getting universe and planet names and all of these things at this stage. You can just get what domain gives you and collect it and use it. And so I somewhere else, and I was taken those properties and shown how they would literally slow everything down and almost start to dissolve them. So there was more I could have done, because when you're working with domain, you can get phases of sequencing flows to help you as well. So that was just phase one. There was more I could have gone on to do that I haven't gone on to do yet. And in fact, I'm being nudged to do it at the moment. It just hasn't been the right time yet this week. But the growth definitely like slowed right down, pretty much to a stop, like virtually a stop. So again, just kind of massive evidence of using something, like using domain, even in my early days, even without the kind of energetic expansion that I have now, or even the conviction that I have now, often like connecting to domain and the incredible results that can come. So, and domain can also, you know, if you think about domain can help you with anything, because it gives you sequencing access to anywhere across all there is. So there's going to be solutions to anything and everything that it can bring you. It can help with like, the behavioral issues and things like that, whether it's biting or scratching or separation anxiety, which is something I want to use domain to do some work with to help Belle as well since lockdown. But these things are always about the right timing. So as we always say, when we share these kind of evidence spotlights, when you're using domain, do it when you are going to with loads of conviction, because that's when you'll have the most incredible experiences and results with it. But without you having to kind of put loads of energy behind it and drain yourself. It's not like that. It's just you go strong intent and then you leverage domain, and domain does so much of the energizing for you, which is awesome. And then nature, a really beautiful example, which I've written about in the book and I'll be talking about in one of the read-alongs, is you will find that nature recognizes your energy. When you work with domain, nature recognizes you. And this can, again, apply to animals as well. It's really interesting. And so one of my experiences was being asked to look out at the fields from my bedroom window, because I live in the middle of the South Downs, and I didn't really know what was going on. This is kind of part and parcel when I was writing the book. I had no idea what was going to happen. And then I was really feeling the truth that those fields recognise my energy. And I was like, what? And again, if someone else had told me this, I probably wouldn't have believed it. But because I was experiencing it firsthand, I couldn't deny it. And you guys will start to experience the same if you're wanting to. And so in that moment, I was then kind of feeling, and I can't actually remember whether I've shared this on a previous episode or not, but we're talking about it with clarity today. I could feel them asking me for something. They were showing me they were thirsty, but not literally thirsty as in needing water, as in needing nutrients. So I connected to domain, and domain connected me to a planet, again, in another universe, which had like a red type soil, which had loads of really rich, vibrant properties and nutrients in it that we don't get in the soil on Earth here. Anywhere on Earth is what it's telling me. And so I stayed with domain, and I took the sequencing energetically and shared it. And this lasted for about half an hour. So you'll know when you're done, the energy will stay with you until you kind of gathered everything and shared everything that you need. It's really beautiful. You just intuitively know. And then I could feel the relief of those fields. It was amazing. And so it was really eye-opening, because we all have heard, perhaps, you know, you can communicate with nature, you can understand nature, but I'd never experienced it firsthand in that way ever. But domain brought it to me and helped me to experience that firsthand. And since then, I've had moments as well where, like, a tree that I'm looking at through my window in the distance is looking back at me and recognizing me and acknowledging my energy. It's just like having that magic touch and that massive connection to the tapestry of this incredible planet and all that's on it. So it's really beautiful. And the thing is, what the domain team is saying is, over time, of course, we would love to work with scientists and researchers and get them to measure the changes that may have happened in those fields, because they were fields of corn. Should have mentioned that. So over time, if we're working with people that can actually measure and record changes and results in things, to actually then have those physical results there to show people as well. But what you'll find is, as you're working with domain yourself, you see it, you know the truth of it. I remember really, really early on when I was practicing domain about 3 years ago, and I wasn't kind of quite ready for it, but I was practicing it. My friend Beth Turner will remember this, and some of you might remember this. I had two kind of egg cups. I put soil in both egg cups and I think seeds in both, and I was trying to energize one growing faster than the other, but I didn't know what I was doing back then. I was so new, but I remember being told you don't need to do that. You don't actually need to do that. Your energy will know when it's doing what it's doing and that it's working. And that is what I've come to understand with domain. Your energy just knows. And so another example I wanted to share around the environment as well is when I did some work over the last 12 months with the domain leaders. There was one domain leader in particular, and we were very much drawn to the rainforests in Uganda to help with the prevention of malaria spreading. So that's something that we know how to do. And when I personally, and perhaps others of you, get on the ground kind of working more in Africa, that's something we're definitely going to start energizing. I'm going to talk about more about that a little bit later on today in today's episode. But what was amazing was I had always thought, how am I gonna work with Africa if I'm here in the UK? Am I going to have to spend a lot of time there? And of course, because you're using Myriad along with Domain, Myriad takes you energetically, like you physically stay here, but Myriad will take you energetically and show you what you need to see. So we were in the depths of that rainforest. We could see everything, almost smell, touch and taste it, as we've been speaking about when we've spoken about Myriad on the previous couple of episodes of Domain TV as well. And we could just see everything so intricately. So it really is that true definition of like remote working, as we read in the read along on Wednesday. It's like you don't have to physically go to places to energize them. Myriad and Domain do that beautifully for us. And so in terms of possibilities and what we can do with the environment, it gets really, 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 really exciting. Now, when people are first energizing with Domain, often they're using it on themselves first. So that's generally the way it occurs. People start using Domain for them in their day-to-day, and then naturally those of them that want to expand outwards and start looking at things to do with the environment. So again, we had some of the Domain leaders that have been looking at things like climate change and reducing water pollution. We've had loads of different things that they've been looking at as well, and having results with. It's amazing. So there's so much we can do with the environment. And again, what's really beautiful when you're working with Domain is it's showing you what's possible. And as more and more of us energize it, more and more of that evidence will become available, basically, because the more that use it, the more evidence there is, the more people that sort of get on board and believe, etc., etc. But you precious souls here, the early energizers of Domain that are creating this incredible energetic history with Domain and these kind of very early stages, we are, what was I going to say there? We're already believing and trusting and knowing. You know, we always say all you need for Domain is belief, hope and love, and everything else follows. So we're already doing that here, but as more and more and more people see and hear and know and feel and witness and evidence themselves, we're going to be able to come together more and more as communities, doing lots of different things, but able to bring our focuses together to help things like rainforests and that type of thing. So it's really like, there's so many different things you can do with Domain, like anything and everything. It has answers and solutions for everything. So this is why we're so passionate about everyone that works with Domain. They're doing it in their own unique energy. They're not trying to copy another. They're literally like, right, this is my energetic setup. This is the things I love to do with Domain, and I'm going to bring all of my energy and uniqueness and do what I want with Domain, and everyone's kind of shining in their own bright colours. And, you know, we're really about championing that. It's no longer about, and we've written this in the book for some of you that have read this bit, and if not, you'll hear it on the read-alongs if you're listening in at the right point. You know, what about if it's no longer about someone being the best? What if it's just like everyone's the best in their own way? So it's not about one person being the best with Domain. It's about everybody using Domain to their maximum advantage in their own ways. And that's where Domain just endless potential. It's just going to keep just building and building and expanding. So the environment is another really exciting area that we have been testing and exploring over the last year and seeing evidence and results with. But over time, as more and more people work with Domain and the word's getting out and this precious community is building, and the communities of the Domain leaders and anyone else that's working with Domain, those in the Domain Immersion Live Experience, those that are joining future programs, if you're all going on to share as well, it's like more and more people can work with Domain for these really kind of beautiful, big environmental things as well. But we can still have effect and make difference right now from the off, but it's just showing the incredible potential for the future. And so just going back to the fact that your animals might really love Domain as well. One of the Domain leaders also experienced when they started working with Domain that their dog really wanted to get involved. And what we understood was he really wanted to work with Domain himself. Like, he was seeing her do it and he wanted to do it as well. And so as she was talking to him about it and communicating to him about it, his energy really settled, but he was definitely having all of this excitement energy around what she was doing with Domain. So again, this is another area that really might open up for you guys. We've already seen evidence of it. It's really beautiful. Some spiritual companions less interested. It's absolutely fine, because obviously it's their choice as well. But some of you may find your spiritual companions are really, really interested as well and wanting to energize Domain. And as you're talking to them about it, you'll kind of get feedback from them, or even if you're working with Domain on helping them, you'll get feedback from them. And so again, in the same way that we can get knowing that we've seen and experienced, evidence of getting knowing and recognition from nature, so too can be the case with animals, birds, insects, all things. It's really beautiful. So Domain really does kind of open up that real kind of surround sound living in terms of experiencing with this kind of heightened connection to those things that are your truth. It's never overbearing, but to those things that are your truth and light you up, but always more to uncover, like always more to delight in. It's really, really beautiful. So that's kind of what we wanted to talk about a little bit this week on a slightly different side of things when it comes to evidence spotlight. And I think it's because now you guys are reading the book. Now you guys are starting to use Domain Energetics. Now the School of Domain Energetics is moving and live today as well with its first program. It's like already I can feel the beautiful love and momentum of Domain coming in and being like, right, and now we can do this, and now we can do this, and now we can do this. So it's going to become such a beautiful community where there's just so much going on, and we love that. So we're excited to keep sharing more with you. And nature, animals and the environment are an area that we'll definitely be exploring more around as well and helping you guys with, because we're here to help shorten timescales for you so you can do more with Domain faster. We're here to just help answer questions, just share any knowledge and insight that we can, just to support you, incredible, precious souls. So that's this week's evidence spotlight so far, loads more to come. And then we wanted to talk a little bit more about Domain's history, and this is the bit that's really interactive and you guys, I think, could potentially really enjoy. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a live connection to Domain in a moment, and you may well get remembering of what you did with Domain before you came into physical, because every non-physical energy knows of Domain. It's that important. And so every non-physical energy has had interaction with Domain. Sorry, every physical human when they were non-physical had interaction with Domain. Okay, so it's awesome kind of shaping this together. So we're going to do that in a minute, but a little bit more about Domain's history is going to come through to you and what Domain's wanting to say, because Domain's going to want to say something to you personally, and you can share below and we'll confirm for you after we've done this episode. It's going to want to say something to you personally, and it's going to want to say something kind of through me to all of us here as well, because it's ready to talk to us and share with us more. So More about Domain's history is that we know it goes back trillions of years. We know it stores creation sequences of all things that ever have been, ever were, and are coming up. And this is really exciting. So it's kind of history, past, present, and future, but I don't want to get too technical. And you know me, I don't like to get too complex. I like to keep it high level and very, very usable. But Domain's history goes really far back. And some of you guys here go really far back with Domain as well. And that's really beautiful to understand. And it's not just those Domain leaders, and it's not just those doing the Domain Immersion Live experience. Of course, all of those energies do go really far back with Domain, but there's others of you here where your energies go far back as well. And so that's really beautiful to understand. And so the fact, those of you that are watching and listening and asking and sharing and participating, you do have strong connection with Domain and strong history with Domain. And of course, there'll be others that come and find this video further down the line. And the same will apply to you as well, is what I'm being told. Those that are gravitating towards and feeling the draw and interest and delight in Domain over these early years, and we have mentioned this in the book, they're the ones that are, and you're the ones that are kind of shaping and helping to energize what we're doing with Domain on Earth in these earlier stages. But historically, there's a lot that you guys know, even if it's at an unconscious level from your non-physical life before coming into physical, around Domain. And so what's going to be really beautiful is to do a connection together with Domain in a moment to see what you might remember. And it might not happen actually on this live. It might happen as you're getting off topic and doing other things, you know, over the coming days. But you might start, if it's your truth, only if you're wanting to get a little bit of remembering about what you might have used Domain in non-physical for to create. It's really, really beautiful. So we'll do that connection and we'll see what Domain wants to say, because Domain's also going to want to share something with you. And for some of you, this will be your first time connecting to Domain, others of you not, but you're all going to get something is what I'm being told, and we'll help you with that. And then we'll share what Domain wants to share with us as a community here now as well. So let's have a go at this, something a little different today on this week's Domain TV episode. So you can close your eyes or keep them open, whatever feels good to you. I often like to close my eyes because it just helps me sort of feel really kind of present. And just feel Domain come to you and surround your energy really lovingly. So this is different. This is different to how we would normally encourage you guys to connect to Domain, which is your energy to go to Domain. This is different because some of you here, this is the first time. Some of you haven't read the book and had Domain activated yet. So some of you aren't ready to do that. Okay, that's why we're doing it this way around. And there are elements of Domain on Earth. So just as you are now, very physical, you can keep your eyes open, like I say, or close them. Feel Domain come to you now and just surround you. Its energy surround you really lovingly. You know, just bits of its energy, not its entire energy, because obviously that's vast and huge, but just bits of its energy coming to surround you now and almost feeling yourself surrounded by that Domain energy. And again, trust. This is where we say trust, because even a few years ago, I would have been like, is that really happening? Is that really true? Trust. It is happening. It is true energy. And some of you might feel a bit emotional with this actually, because if it's your first interaction with Domain, it might move you to loving tears. So feel Domain's energy around you, and if you want to, you can ask it to give you some insight around what you used it to help create when you were in non-physical. I haven't done this yet. This is myself even. So some of you have already been starting to uncover this if you're working with me, but the rest of you won't have necessarily been getting this yet. So have a little just moment where you might just get an intuition or a gut feeling, or you might see a flash in your mind's eye, a bit like if you're imagining something, you kind of see it in your mind's eye, but you know it's sort of coming from Domain because it sort of comes in quite quickly. Some of you might feel, but you'll get a knowing, and trust, because some of you are going to have connection to things like creation of stars, creation of planets, creation of objects on Earth, creation of souls. This is very, 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 very interesting. So with that, I'm being shown for the first time ever, it's not like creating a soul from scratch, but a soul that's there kind of almost enhancing and adapting it a bit and its usability with domain. It's fascinating. So even I myself, as I'm getting this, I'm like, whoa, is that true? But that's what I'm being shown, like adapting. If you think about human evolution, is what I'm being shown. Gosh, this is fascinating. And how we've evolved. It's that kind of evolution that domain might have helped with. That's fascinating. Really, 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 really fascinating. Because if you think all non-physical pretty much can use and work with domains, that's really, really, really fascinating. So it could be anything, but just trust if you're being shown it. And the thing is, as I said at the start of the domain and emergent life experience this morning, I was like, when domains send you stuff, it can be really left field, but that's what I love about it, because you just don't see it coming. You're like, no. And you're like, oh my God, yes, I can feel the truth of that. So that's why domain really delights. It can just be so left field and so beyond what we know on this physical earth. It's just stunning. So you'll get a bit of a knowing, even if it's a flash, just trust. And this is helping us piece together a little bit of our history with domain as well. And so when you're ready, I'm just being guided or asked just to give you a little bit longer by domain. I'm going to do it myself, actually. So I'm being shown there was sequence mapping that I helped with, and sequence mapping is something we're going to talk about in one of the chapters in the book read along that we're doing on a Wednesday morning. So we'll get to that chapter as well. And working with God and helping him with sequence mapping, that's just fascinating. So just trust whatever you get. And again, for some of you that are new, if you feel like nothing's really flowing, just really relax and just come back to it when you're really, really balanced. When you're trying too hard, it won't come through clearly, but we are really helping you to receive this with the energetics that we're flowing here. So it should be fairly easy. But if you are watching this and you're slightly feeling out of sorts, it's probably not the best time to do it. Do it when you're feeling really balanced, but trust what you get. Very, very, very fascinating. Okay. And now domain wants to say something to each of you that are doing this. Hello, whoever's watching. I can see the hearts. Oh, Rita, darling. Hello. Mwah. Morning. We're just doing some connection with domain. So you're very welcome to join. So yeah, Rita, if you're sort of watching, I mean, you're an expert with domain. You're one of the domain leaders. You're awesome. So, but we're just sort of feeling domain around us rather than going to domain, just for those that are doing this for the first time. So now with domain's energy around you, it wants to say something to you, and it could be anything. And trust, please trust, because when I started receiving, I was like, no, am I making it up, etc., etc. Trust what you're getting. We're supporting the energetics to help this, and I'm going to do the same now. Just going to see what domain wants to say to me. And you can share below if you want to, and then we can feed back and confirm and stuff, because we're really passionate about helping everybody get very comfortable and confident with receiving domain. So, domain, what do you want to say to me? So we'll just take a moment. Oh. Okay, so bearing in mind, any of you could have got anything. I've just felt domain say, this is actually it's going to make me a bit emotional with love. This is actually a really big day. From domain's point of view, because some of you, this will be the first time you're inviting domain in, okay? And that's really, really, really special. And also it's a big day because, you know, the School of Domain Energetics has started. That's been trillions of years in the making. And also just this time, It's those two things, those connections to some of you that may not have connected yet. Really important to domain. Every single one of you is so, so, so cherished and so loved. You're never going to get lost in a crowd. And this could rip my heart out with love when I say this. It's like none of you are going to get lost in a crowd with domain. And that's what's really special about it as well. It cherishes every single one of you and every single person that comes to work with Domain in the future. No one's ever going to get lost in the crowd. You're all going to feel that unwavering love and support. And even in the Domain community that we're building over time, as it continues to grow, with you guys on social media, you know, within the online school, within the Pathway to Thrive Facebook group, beyond the online school as well. It's like, even as it gets bigger over the coming years and decades and beyond my physical life, my desire is for it to keep growing way beyond my physical experience here. You're never going to get lost in the crowd. Every single one of you is so cherished and valued. And we just want you to really feel the love from that as well, because it's utterly, utterly true. So they're the things that it was communicating to me, which I'm now also communicating to you, because one of those parts is obviously completely for you guys. And now I'm going to see if there's anything else Domain wants to say to us as a group through me. So there's a massive, like, flourishing is not quite the right word. There's a massive sharing. That's also not quite the right word. There's a massive floundering, okay, it's an interesting word, massive floundering of love, okay, energetic word. As we spoke about on the read along, some words might be unusual, but breeze over them. They have energetic meaning. A floundering of energy and love, floundering of love that's coming out to all of you, and a recognition of every single one of you. And that's what Domain's saying. A recognition and acknowledgement of every single one of you, whether you're watching this live or on replay, whether you're watching it at a time of recording or a few weeks, months, years, decades down the line. It acknowledges every single one of you. And so, again, feel that, because each of you are kind of starting to ignite your own journeys with Domain. Some of you are choosing to go really kind of gently and gradually, which is right for you. Some of you are wanting to excel it. But you're all sort of embarking upon this by watching what we're doing, listening, interacting with us, reading the book, doing programs, whatever it is. There's interaction here. And if you think about what an honour that is for Domain, it's saying, because this has been everything we've been waiting for in terms of Domain. This is what Domain's been energizing towards for trillions of years. That point when we would be ready to use it for us and our Earth, and over time in the future, potentially multiversally as well. This is true energy. So feel that wonderful acknowledgement to each and every one of you individually. You're so loved and acknowledged by Domain. And that's the big thing I would say with Domain from my experience, having in the early days felt a little bit overwhelmed, like it's ginormous, to now just being like, it's just massive love. And if you can feel that from Domain, you're sorted with all the rest of it. Like, the rest will continue to flow. So massive love, massive, massive love. So that's been really beautiful. So as you guys are watching this live on replay, feel free to share if you want to. No pressure. It's always about choice and whatever feels good to you. If you want to share, and we will communicate back to you. Okay. So moving on to the next section, we wanted to talk a little bit about now the book is out, which has been out for 4 and a bit weeks. Now the School of Domain Energetics is officially moving and energizing as of today. What comes next? Okay. So we just wanted to share with you, and we feel like this is going to be quite a moving feast. And what I was collating this morning is that, because this is all about community and family energy, we want you to feel like you're suggesting things and participating as well, as and when you want to, because it is about a community. It's not just one person kind of standing at the top of the mountain and talking to everyone else. It's like an energy where we're in togetherness. Domain's all about togetherness, for those of you that have been reading the book. So this is kind of what we've sort of got coming up at the minute. So I've made some notes. So obviously the Domain Immersion Live experience has started today. If anyone still wants to hop on that enrolment is open until 6 o'clock this evening. But beyond that, we're going to be doing lots of wonderful things as well. So we're talking about workshops. So potentially 2 to 4 hours long, that kind of thing, focusing on different types of areas. So it could be anything and everything, ideas potentially that have been ignited through the Our World What Comes Next book. So potentially workshops around nature and the environment, workshops around ancient civilizations, workshops around family and kids and using Domain in the home. For me, particularly I love Africa as well, potentially workshops around Africa, potentially workshops around Martha, the ocean's consciousness, or the energetic layers, or new energies coming to Earth, or workshops around that multiversal reach. Because some of you, different people are going to get lit up by different things with domain. For some of you, it's like using it for your body. For some of you, it's using it for Earth and the environment. For some of you, it's that kind of multiversal exploration and where, Myriad can show you. For some of you, it's those ancient civilizations that we know use Myriad before and that Myriad can show us insight about. So all of you are going to be sort of lit up by different things, and that's beautiful and perfect. If we go back to what we were saying earlier about domain, really celebrating and championing diversity and our individuality. So there could be loads of different things that we're doing, and already the Domain Immersion Live Experience launching today, already I can feel Domain kind of going, yay, so this one's moving, this is beautiful. And now there are all these other kind of ideas, almost like fireworks and possibilities. So also potentially doing some live Q&As, so sort of within the School of Domain Energetics. So again, paid for because they're being leveraged, you'll be leveraging the School of Domain Energetics, but that kind of live Q&A interaction with myself, but in the main domain, I'll sort of just be receiving and helping domain kind of flow, understanding and answers and things like that to you. So that's something we've got in the lineup as well. Potentially some one-to-one appointments. So rather than kind of necessarily sort of like long ongoing one-to-one kind of working formats, like one-to-one appointments, which is really interesting. So I will go off and collate a little bit more on that. But some of you might just want like an hour and a half or so with myself and domain on a one-to-one basis, as an example. So that's really interesting as well. And then potentially we're talking about live events. Now, this is really exciting and the domain leaders know about this. Further along the line in year 3, because we're in year 2 now, we're looking at doing summits in beautiful locations around the world. So each year somewhere different. And it's a real kind of coming together and loving energy amongst the domain community for those that want to come along to the summits. So that's one thing. But actually for year 2, we're thinking about doing a meetup basically in Alfriston, like the home of Domain Energetics HQ, if you like, where I live, and having a physical get together there, perhaps next summer, so an in-person event, which will be beautiful. And for those of you that don't know Alfriston and would be visiting for the first time, it's beautiful. There's loads of lovely places to stay. It's in the middle of the South Downs. There's a vineyard. What's not to love about that? Lots of pubs. It's just really, really beautiful. And I know the space where I would actually do the in-person event as well. So we're looking at doing an in-person event potentially next summer as well. So what we've said is, let us know what excites you, what might be of interest to you. Let us know if there's things you're reading or hearing about domain. You're like, I'd love to explore that more. Let us know. And you can either inbox me or comment at any point. It doesn't have to be right now, today, whenever it is. And we'll do our best to offer things to help as many of you as possible, basically. So there's a lot of energy now that will be going on around the book continuously, as we know with the live read-alongs, that will be going on around the School of Domain Energetics, because that is a powerhouse for domain elevation, and obviously just as much community building and interaction as possible. And for us at this stage as well, it's about those kind of really deep connections with people. So it's much more sort of like that kind of going deeper rather than wider at this moment in time. And I keep being shown, and this is why you guys are so precious, it's like domain kind of getting out there into the wider world. It kind of starts here, almost like this kind of central core energy, and then will gradually disperse out. So if you think about what we're doing, sort of domain leaders researching for 12 months or so, then the first programs, Domain Immersion Live Experience, and then more beyond that, it's like gradually that core energy is going to build out. So again, whenever you're watching this now or in the future, you're kind of still those kind of core early users of domain as well. And it's that really kind of lovely, deep kind of energy and connection that we're wanting to build with all in the domain community who are wanting the same as well. So also in future Domain TV episodes, potentially getting some of our wonderful domain leaders on if they want to sharing a little bit about what they've been doing with Domain, what their specialities are with Domain, because we say we want to showcase everyone's diversity. And so potentially getting some of our Domain leaders on, inviting them to come on live with me, sharing their experiences, sharing what they're up to and what they're offering, because it's all about diversity. There is enough for everyone. We're sharing. This is like such a beautiful energy behind Domain. And also beyond the Domain leaders, you know, others in the community that are working with Domain that might want to come on and talk about what they're doing and what they're creating and what their experiences are. So, you know, you can kind of see why it's called Domain TV, almost like, you know, guest spots and that type of thing building over time as well. And then further down the line, I'm being shown almost me on the ground in Africa with some of you that might be wanting to participate, and us kind of coming live from different locations as well. So, and, you know, people in different parts of the world coming on live as well. So there's just so much goodness here. And so we're going to keep sharing news, as we say, so keep sharing any news and evidence and experiences that you're getting, whether you want to do it here publicly or privately, just share away. And then the other thing that I was really kind of guided to say today in terms of what comes next as well, and some of you may have already seen this on the website or read about it in the book. For me in particular with Domain, I'm very passionate about Africa, and we've been guided to start energizing Domain in Africa, starting in Uganda. We've been sort of told that. So that's something that I will be doing a lot of work with. And, you know, Thrive Projects Africa, we've spoken about those and introduced those briefly in the book. Starting to energize Thrive Projects Africa, like different Thrive projects. So this could be projects to help communities thrive, or, you know, whether it's human nature or animals, projects to help different things in Africa, but very much working in Africa, because Africa, as we spoke about, was the original last week, was the original continent. So it's rich in creation energy and therefore myriad energy, because myriad and Domain are all about creation. And so it's rich in those energies. And so the possibilities there and what we can do are just going to be staggering to explore and uncover and do and materialize and bring to fruition together in this community energy. So Africa's definitely an area that I'm going to be exploring more. And some of you I know are really drawn to Africa, like you've literally felt cool. You've read it in the book, or you've heard me talking about it, or you've seen the reels and you're like, oh my gosh, Africa. It's because your energy wants to actually work with Domain and do incredible things in Africa as well. Whether you're kind of doing it as a one-off or you're doing something longer term, you know, it's really beautiful. It's not by chance, basically, is what Domain's saying. So there are things that we're going to be looking at. One of them, and I am being asked to introduce it today, even though I'm not sort of really energizing it yet, is a 2-year diploma for Thrive Projects Africa. I've even written about that in the book. So that's going to be beautiful, working with souls that really want to deeply energize Domain with specificity around Africa and doing stunning things in Africa, and potentially a field trip where we get on the ground over there as a part of that 2-year diploma as well. So that's another thing that's in the pipeline. But other than that, it's that just continual building of really close energy, family and community. That's what Domain's all about. Togetherness, sharing, supporting, cheerleading, showcasing, you know, owning our uniqueness and diversity, and just doing wonderful different things with it, but having exhilarating experiences with it ourselves individually. That's what it's about. It's not about, here comes Nelson, one of the core guides for the Domain non-physical team. If you don't already know, Nelson Mandela has always been since the start, when I started receiving about it about 3 years ago. So if you think about what Nelson's saying, we can sometimes think about kind of change and wanting to bring and change new, and it's almost like that comes ahead of us, but it's different times now. We're at a different time in our evolution. Now it's about us delighting in Domain first for ourselves individually, and then in that's when we're really beautiful and powerful with Domain and what it can do for other things as well, such as, you know, environmental causes and that type of thing. You know, some of our Domain leaders have different areas of speciality. You know, I focus on Africa, but you know, not wanting to miss anyone out, but trying to remember everybody. We've got like, you know, domain leaders that are passionate about harmonizing, those that are passionate about Egypt and ancient civilizations, those that are passionate about nature. You know, one of them's written a book, you know, one of them, I'm trying to think who else there is, one of them, you know, interested in waterways and reefs. They've all got their different specialities, so definitely go and check them out on the Sarah Morgan Global website and reach out to them, get to know them, because they're all doing different things. And also you guys may find, as you're becoming really progress with a domain, that you want to go off and do and create your own things as well. It's like freedom for all is what Domain and Nelson are saying. That's what Domain's always been about, accelerated freedom for all. And that is really, 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 really beautiful. So yes, so that's pretty much kind of everything we wanted to share with you this week. So we've done an evidence spotlight. We've spoken a little bit about Domain's history with you in particular, as individuals. We've sort of received a little bit from Domain and had an experience of that for those of you that are new or practice with Domain. And we've talked a little bit more about what's coming up in the future. So watch this space, stay close, you're so loved. Obviously, we're going to continue with the Domain book read-alongs as well every Wednesday at 10 a.m. So we'll be live again on Wednesday next week with the second read-along of Our World, What Comes Next. There's so much more to come. Even I don't know everything that's to come. It's a delight for me, is what Domain's saying. I'm delighting in it just as much. So we'll continue to send out our Monday newsletters, email emits as well, so that they're landing in your box and bringing a whole load of good energy into your inbox every Monday. There's just so much good here. So thank you as always for listening, for watching, for following, for interacting, for participating, for commenting, whatever you're doing, for spectating, however it is. Thank you for being here, and remember that Domain acknowledges every single one of you individually and always will for anyone that comes forward to work with Domain. So feel that love. We love you so, so, so much. We're wishing you a wonderful, 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 wonderful weekend. And yeah, just have an absolute ball. And if anyone else is wanting to hop on the Domain Immersion Live experience before enrollment closes tonight at 6 UK time, you're very welcome. And we just love you. And we'll be sending out an email limit on Monday. So if you aren't already signed up for those and you would like to be, if you go to sarahmorganglobal.com, the newsletter option to sign up to our email emit newsletters, they've got a lot of energy in them. That's why they're called email emits. You can sign up to that on most of the pages on the Sarah Morgan Global website. We've tried to make it as clear as possible, just so people can find it easily should they want to be on it. So it's with so much love that we bring this episode to a close today. We love you immensely. We'll see you again for the next Domain TV episode next Friday. But in the meantime, have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful few days between now and then. We love you so, so, so much. Mwah.